It was a Sunday morning when I found the fence destroyed. The very same cedar fence my father and I built by hand 10 years ago, its posts sunken deep into the damp lakeside soil, its slats weathered from wind and time but still standing strong. Or they had been. Now they were splintered on the ground like matchsticks, broken open with no sign of accident or mercy. I stood barefoot on my porch, mug still warm in my hand, staring in disbelief at the gaping hole. Behind it, just beyond the muddy trail now etched into my yard, floated 2 neon pink paddleboards. And beyond those was Karen Withers, chair of the Oakshore HOA, standing waist deep in my lakefront, arms akimbo, wearing a bright floral kaftan and a smug little smile like she had won something. "Morning," she chirped, waving like nothing had happened. "Hope you don't mind we just launching from here now. The other side's too crowded." I lowered the mug, heartbeat thudding. "You tore down my fence." "Oh," she said, mock surprised, glancing behind her at the wreckage. "That thing? It was improperly placed. The HOA voted last month to designate a new access path for community lake use, and yours just happened to be in the way. The HOA can't override private property lines," I snapped. Her smile widened. "Oh, but we can adjust communal easements. You should have attended the meeting. Maybe you could have voted against it." I stared at her, rage brewing. I did vote. Against it. In writing. With a notarized statement. And this land isn't HOA common ground. It's mine. Karen shrugged and climbed out of the water like a dripping dictator. Well, it was hard to tell. There's no formal boundary marker on the lakeside. Besides, it's a safety issue. Some of the other residents, especially with kids, needed better water access. I did what was best for the community. I watched as her son mid-20s, smirking like he just vandalized a dorm hallway, tied his paddleboard to one of my dock cleats without asking. That dock, built by my grandfather in 1974. That land, purchased by my family in 1953, decades before the HOA even existed. Karen had just declared war. I walked inside without another word. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to call my cousin, a county land assessor and civil engineer with a taste for petty vengeance and federal easement law. 2 days later, I filed for an emergency survey. Karen, meanwhile, doubled down. She sent out an email blast to the HOA members claiming I was hoarding lake access, that my unpermitted fence was blocking safety equipment storage, and that I had historically shown reluctance to cooperate with neighborhood standards. Her language dripped with coded spite, the kind that paints property owners as villains and HOA overreach as community good. I didn't respond. I didn't even open her follow-up email with the subject line, "Urgent Lakefront Mediation Opportunity." Instead, I let the survey team do their work. They came in with tripods, chalk spray, GPS maps, and boundary pegs. Turns out, not only was my fence not intruding on HOA easement, it was actually a few feet inside my rightful line. That whole patch of grass Karen had been calling community shore access for years. It was part of my parcel, right down to the reeds on the water's edge. But here's where the twist hit. My cousin uncovered something else. The HOA's lakeside path, the one that curved around my yard and connected the common areas, had no legal right-of-way. It had been a handshake deal with the previous owner. Me unclued allowed access verbally, but never wrote it into the deed. When I inherited the house, that informal permission ended. So not only did Karen destroy my fence, she'd done it under zero legal authority. And she'd trespassed repeatedly, encouraged others to do the same, and altered property boundaries without consent. My cousin handed me the full report and said 6 magic words. "You can shut the whole thing down." I didn't just repair the fence. I replaced it with a steel and cedar hybrid privacy wall, 8 feet high, bolted into concrete, and professionally permitted with the county. Along its interior, I planted thick hedges and installed solar lights. At its center, a custom gate with a digital lock and a security camera pointed directly at the path Karen used to wander down. Then, with the help of a local attorney, I filed a formal cease and desist order against Karen and the HOA for trespass, property damage, and boundary manipulation. When she received it, she came stomping back down my driveway, fists clenched, cheeks blotchy, her body puffed up like a toad in full defense mode. "This is insanity," she shrieked. "You can't just block the lake. The HOA has always had access here. Not legally. I said, stepping out onto the porch. You destroyed my property. You forged a vote that never had the right to exist. And you've lied to every homeowner in this community for years about something that was never yours. I was trying to do what's fair, she screeched. I didn't flinch. Then you should have bought the land when you had the chance. The camera by the gate clicked silently. Capturing the moment, she pointed her stubby finger at me and shouted, "You'll regret this. The board will sue. The community will revolt. You've ruined everything." But she was wrong. Because when the rest of the HOA members found out what happened when they saw the survey results, the easement analysis, and photos of the destroyed fence, they turned on her like vultures on roadkill. Even her allies couldn't defend what she did. She'd overstepped, not just morally, but legally. And I was just getting started. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. For once, the clubhouse parking lot overflowed. Folks who normally never showed up, like retired Mr. Edelman with his oxygen tank, and even the newlyweds in Lot 17, who kept to themselves, came out with folded chairs and crossed arms. Everyone wanted to know what the hell Karen had done this time. And I came prepared. I stood calmly at the front with my cousin beside me, documents in hand, as Karen sat red-faced at the folding table, trying desperately to maintain the illusion of control. But that illusion cracked the moment I placed the certified property survey on the table and said, "This is my land. All of it, including the lakeside path Karen illegally claimed." Gasps rippled through the room. Karen muttered something about community history, but I cut her off. "For the record," I said loud and clear, "Karen trespassed, ordered my fence torn down without permission, misrepresented legal boundaries to the HOA, and filed unauthorized policy changes using false maps that don't reflect county records. That's not miscommunication. That's willful fraud." The room went silent. Then came the twist. My cousin raised his hand and added, "Also, while surveying, we found that the HOA's dock, benches, and half of the equipment shed all sit on Mr. Carter's property line. None of it was ever officially permitted, which means legally, they belong to him." Karen's face went from red to ashen. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Around her, board members began shifting uncomfortably. A woman in a yellow cardigan leaned toward the others and whispered something that looked a lot like, "We're screwed." Camille, yes, that Camille, the same firebrand family lawyer who helped me during another HOA disaster a year back, stepped forward at that moment. She'd flown in that morning after I sent her the updated boundary findings. She held a briefcase in one hand and a grin in the other. "Karen Witherspoon," Camille began with the smoothness of a practiced killer, "we are formally notifying you that Mr. Carter is issuing a 30-day demand for the removal of all unauthorized HOA structures from his private property. Failure to comply will result in litigation, and any damages, including the destruction of the original fence, will be added to that suit." Someone in the back clapped. Another person murmured, "She finally pushed too far." Karen tried to stand, but her chair caught on the carpet and clattered to the floor. She looked around, seeking backup, but no one rose with her. Her voice cracked. This is a coup. You're letting one man shut down community access? You're siding with greed." I stepped forward, speaking not as a property owner, but as a neighbor. "No, Karen, we're siding with truth, with law, and with the right of every homeowner to be free from lies, manipulation, and bullying. You want a lake access? You could have knocked on my door and asked. But instead, you tore down what I built with my father. You lied. You stole. And now, the lakefront you abused to control others is gone." It was poetic justice when the board voted right there to remove her as president. The count was 90. Even her closest friend, Debbie from Lot 12, looked away when her name was called. Karen slumped back into her seat, defeated, her hands shaking as she muttered under her breath. But I wasn't finished. The following week, with Camille's help, I filed for formal ownership enforcement of the disputed dock and access path. I had every right to seize the land I did, not out of spite, but as a statement. The moment the county confirmed the claim, I posted a wooden sign right at the lake's edge, carved by hand and nailed into a split log base. It read, "Private property trespassers will be prosecuted. This shoreline is not HOA land." And below it, a smaller plaque with something more personal. "You break it, you lose it." Karen moved out within 2 months. Word spread that she took a job in a smaller HOA community in northern Arizona, but rumor has it the board there already regrets hiring her. Some people never learn. As for the old HOA dock, I dismantled it myself with a few good friends and donated the materials to a local youth sailing camp. The kids now run their summer programs on the opposite side of the lake, free of HOA oversight. No permits, no politics, just water, wind, and freedom. The space where the path used to run along my property, I turned it into a pollinator garden. Bees hum in the lavender bushes. Wild sunflowers line the privacy fence. Butterflies dance through the goldenrod. The gate stays locked, and the camera still runs, but I rarely need to check it anymore. Because something changed in the neighborhood after that. People stopped fearing each other. The new HOA president, a retired firefighter named Lou, reinstated transparency meetings, abolished the bylaw Karen tried to slip in about view access, and personally apologized to me and 3 other homeowners Karen had targeted over the years. Neighbors started waving more. Kids played without nervous glances toward the sidewalk. And the lake, once a source of contention, became something sacred again. And me? I sit on the porch most mornings, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over the water my grandfather fished on. The fence stands tall. The dock is mine again. And no Nino one comes through that gate without an invitation. Karen thought she could take everything. But in trying to steal a slice of the lake, she gave me back the whole shoreline. And I'll never forget the lesson. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't raise your voice or throw a punch. It's stand your ground, build your boundary, and dare them to cross it. So tell Mato you think I was right to take it all back? Or should lake access have stayed shared, no matter how it was claimed?